Hey guys, it's Victoria and welcome back to FemmeHead. So today I wanted to give you my 1 month breastfeeding update with Theo. I've already filmed one video, so we're gonna see if we can get a second one filmed while he naps. The first thing I want to say is I was surprised with how well breastfeeding has gone for me, because I always heard that it was difficult, and that's not to say that things aren't going to change and things aren't going to get difficult because it's only been 1 month. He turns 5 weeks old tomorrow, so this isn't me saying breastfeeding is easy, blah blah blah. I know a lot of people struggle with it for various reasons, like latch, supply, you name it. But anyways, so far so good. Theo was able to latch Theo was able to latch right after he was born, pretty much, while we did our skin to skin time, so that was great. In the hospital he ate every 3 hours. He lost 8% of his weight while we were in the hospital, but then we went in for a weigh-in the day after we got discharged, and he was already up an ounce, so that was great. And then when we went in for our 2-week appointment, he was up several more ounces, so he was almost back to, well, pretty much almost back to birth weight. And I think he is, I think he's much more than birth weight now. He's a healthy little boy. Back to the hospital, while we were there, everyone was super great about breastfeeding. Everyone was super pro breastfeeding and helpful. I had 2 different lactation consultants come and visit me. My only complaint is there was one pediatrician that was checking in on him, and she's like, well, looks like he's lost 8% of his body weight, and that's a lot, and you need to be waking him up every 2 hours to feed him, and yada yada yada. We need to look at pumping and supplementation. And so she kind of scared me a little bit, because I was like, I don't want any of that. But then my nurse came in, and I was trying to get him to wake up, and I was like, I don't know what to do. It's been 2 hours and I can't get him to wake up. I've been trying for 15 minutes and he just won't wake up. He's so sleepy. And she told me I need to wake him up for 2 hours, but he's been eating every 3. And she's like, you're okay. He's been eating every 3 and you're doing what you can. He has a great latch. You haven't had any issues. It's gonna be okay. And she kind of helped me recognize that the fear tactics weren't really necessary. So the day I left the hospital was the day that my milk came in, and so that he would have been 2 days old. So I think it took 2 days for my milk to come in. Oh my goodness, I did not fully conceptualize what that was. You hear about your milk coming in and your boobs being super big, but engorgement is no joke. And my boobs were rock solid boulders. I have never really had boobs in my life, but I have boobs now. And when my milk came in, I was like, it looks like I got breast implants. It was insane and a bit painful. But you don't want to pump while your milk's coming in and your supply is getting established, because that could give you an oversupply, and then you'll just have engorgement from there on out for a while, and that would just be unpleasant. But the thing I did twice was I have a little silicone breast pump, and once with each boob, a different day, where it was so engorged, and his stomach's so teeny tiny that he couldn't empty enough. So what I did was I took the silicone breast pump and I put it on whichever boob was super engorged, and I would pump just enough to relieve the pressure, and that was great. And so I only had to do that twice. But then your supply bounces out within a couple of days, and they stop throbbing and hurting, and they kind of get to a good place. Babies can cluster feed, I learned, which is eating more than every 2 hours. So sometimes he would eat every hour or every hour and a half, and I kind of just let him eat when he wanted to eat, because I don't know, he's a grown little baby. There was one night early on where he cluster fed throughout the night, and that's when I learned what cluster feeding was. And then I realized I didn't want him to do it at night, so I tried to get him to do it in the afternoon. So that's why if he wants to eat every hour in the afternoon, I'm going to let him eat every hour in the afternoon, so he doesn't want to eat every hour at night. So at 1 month, he eats every 2 to 3 hours, usually closer to 2 during the day, but a few times he has gone 4 to 4.5 hours between feedings. So they say at 4 weeks old, you're supposed to have 1 4-hour stretch between feedings a day in a 24-hour period. The goal is to get that first thing at night, so from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. We're working on it. I think he did 4 hours and 45 minutes the other day, which was fantastic. He did wake up once though, and Michael had to put him back down, but he didn't need to eat. I was able to get him from eating like 3 to 4 times a night to eating 2 times a night is what he's at right now, around 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. And like when I realized I'd only woken up 2 times the night before, I was like, oh my god, this is glorious. Like I can do this. I can get up twice a night. And so if he eats and goes back down really easy, like I feel so much more well rested. I'm looking at like my charting app from when we first came home and how many times he ate at night. I was like, God, oh, what a difference. I give credit for getting to 2 times a night to a sleep course I took from Taking Care of Babies. It was recommended by a couple people and I like checked her out and I really liked her Instagram and I watched like her stories and stuff and I was like, oh my god, I want what those babies are doing. So I purchased the course and I think it has been revolutionary to this child's sleep. Not that like he's a good little sleeper anyways and he's a good little boy, but I think this has just helped him. So his bedtime is around 7 p.m. but that's flexible depending on where we are and that sort of stuff. So it's around 7-ish, but sometimes he needs to go to bed at 6:20 and sometimes he doesn't go to bed till 8:30. We shoot for 7. And then I try to get him to 10 p.m. but it's usually more like 9:30 when I feed him, but I just roll with it. And then I try to get him from like that 9:30, 10 o'clock feeding, I try to get him to a longer stretch. So every time he like wakes up, I don't feed him at night. I try to like settle him back down to sleep to let him know like, okay, I can go a little bit longer, I can go a little bit longer. But if he actually is like truly hungry and super fussy, then I will feed him. But the goal is to teach them that like they can go a little bit longer stretches. So usually at night he does like every 3 hours, but we're working on 4 hours. He wakes up usually around 6 a.m. so I kind of wish it was a little bit later, but it's usually like 6:20. But I guess I just get up at 6 o'clock now. Okay, I gotta go get my baby. Okay, where was I? So I think that Theo has a little bit of reflux. I don't know, obviously, because I don't know, but I think I know, which is normal. So I hold him upright on my chest after eating for anywhere from like 15 to 20 minutes. As you can see, I got a little bit of spit up on me. Spit up is normal, puking is normal. It's kind of, I think, the pain associated with it. So like arching of the back, screaming, like that sort of stuff. So definitely if you lay him down after he eats, he will throw a fit. And it's not because like, oh, you put me down, it's like I'm in pain, and then he will vomit everywhere. If I ever have to like change his diaper after feeding him, he doesn't like having a dirty diaper, which I don't think anyone would. I kind of prop him up on his change pad with like a little towel under his head, so he's at like a little bit of an incline, but he still will puke up. And so I always wondered, like, how are you supposed to put down a baby drowsy but awake, not asleep? Because he always passed out. I just don't understand it, because he'd always be asleep. Turns out you can kind of like jostle them awake just a little bit, enough for them to like crack their eyes and see that they're like in their bassinet or crib rather than still in your arms, because apparently babies can tell the difference of like, oh, I fell asleep in mom's arms or I fell asleep in dad's arms, and then, oh my god, I'm in, you know, this jail cell of a crib. What's going on? At night, I will feed him. I will hold him up for like 5 or so minutes, and then I will swaddle him, and then I'll hold him up some more because he likes to be held upright. I've pumped 2 or 3 times, but I don't need a stash at the moment, so I'm not like pumping every day. And you're supposed to pump like first thing in the morning, but it's kind of hard. But I do, like I said, throw on the silicone pump for like 10 minutes sometimes to get like a little bit to practice bottle feeding. Not so much currently, but probably at like 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks, his little hands will get in the way of him latching at night, and it's really frustrating when you're like exhausted and they're fussy because they can't get on there, but he'd like have his little hands up here, and then you're like have one hand on them, the other hand on your boob, and then you have to like use your body to pin the little arms to get your boob in. But he's better about it now. He like understands that he can't have his hands in his face, but he still does it every now and then, but he's better. Or I'll call it like his lazy latch. To get a good latch, you want them to latch with like a full mouth, not like this. You don't want them just sucking on the nipple. You want them to get a full mouth of boob. You want to wait for them to open wide before you put your boob in. You're supposed to tickle like upper lip, like this area of their nose, and you want just be nipple to nose and then into the mouth. You don't want to go straight for the mouth. Support your back and your arms when you are breastfeeding. I wish I would have like lifted more weights in pregnancy to prepare for carrying this tiny human around. Some sort of like bobby pillow, or like I don't use a bobby pillow all the time. Like if I'm down here, I will like prop up a pillow so my arm is not like using my arm muscle. You want to relax your shoulders. You don't want to be like this, and you also don't want to like be hunched over your baby. Sometimes I will like hunch over to like get them on, and then I will like sit back, but you don't want to sit there and breastfeed like this because you will destroy your back. My nipples have gotten sore for sure, but I have been lucky enough to not have like cracked or bleeding nipples, which I'm very grateful for. There was probably a couple days where we were both kind of like lazy with getting him latched, and I definitely noticed my nipples were getting super sensitive and sore. So I was like, okay, right, we gotta make more of an effort to get you on there good. And then it was a good thing. I think it was very helpful to read a couple books and take a breastfeeding class. And I think understanding like how to get a proper latch, how like your milk supply actually works, like it's a supply and demand, and you want to drain your boobs to then tell it to like make more milk. And I just learned so much I mean, my breastfeeding class honestly was so good, and I didn't expect that. I thought I knew a lot already, but I definitely recommend taking a breastfeeding class if there's one available to you. One thing I learned was you want to start feeding with the boob you ended the last feeding with. So say, okay, last time I started on the right boob and he ate 10 minutes there, and then he had 3 minutes on the left boob. The next time I fed him, I would want to start him on the left boob and then end with the right boob. So you make sure you're like draining your boobs completely. I could go on and on and on, and I'm sure I will. And I'm going to make, I think, a 2-month breastfeeding update video because I'm sure things would change. If you guys have any breastfeeding questions, I'm not an expert, not a lactation consultant, not even like pretending to be any of that. But if you guys have any questions about like my experience or anything like that, ask those down below and I can include them in my next breastfeeding update. But essentially that's what I have to say about 1 month of breastfeeding. It's been going really, really well, and I'm so grateful for it. There are pros and cons to breastfeeding. There's pros and cons to pumping and feeding. There are pros and cons to formula feeding. Like, there is no right or wrong way to feed your baby, just as long as your baby is getting fed. I am grateful enough to be able to breastfeed right now, and that can change, but I just want to say there's like no shame in how you feed your child. Just make sure you're feeding them. Keep your baby happy. Anyways, that's what I have to say. Thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Let me know your questions down below, or your experience with breastfeeding or formula feeding or pumping or anything like that down below. Any tips you might have for me going forward, things to look out for. And yeah, that's what I have to say today. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!